Hi everyone. I want to share an update from my life in this particular video. I know this isn't where I normally film. I normally use the curtain there on the door as a background. It's hard to film in my house during the daytime because of all the windows in here. However, I did want to get a video out today, and the natural starting point is from my life right now. I've had quite a difficult 2 weeks. So I want to start back 2 weeks ago, or nearly 2 weeks ago now. I heard what sounded like a running tap in my basement. Now the basement's not much more than a crawl space, but it does have the furnace and the water heater. And I was wondering what it was, because I live here alone. There are these clamps that go around what's called a one-way valve. So how I could explain it, let me just make a quick drawing. Okay, this isn't the best drawing in the world, but it will work. So if this is a sump pump, the water that it draws in is to get it away from the foundation of your house and then up and to the storm drain where, offered by the city or provided by the city. This area right here represents a check valve. It's like a one-way door, meaning once water gets up past that, there's a little flap on the inside that prevents it from going back down. And what it means is that once water's gone up sort of the 4 feet to turn the corner and go to the street, that water it's gone. But if you don't have this check valve, once the pump shuts off, it drains back into the hole and then has to keep pumping it back out. So one-way valves are installed low down. On my setup, there's these metal straps around this. They're called gear clamps. So the vibration of the motor had caused the gear clamp to come loose, and the water was just spewing out. And as a result, my basement was flooding. Now, bear in mind that it's an unfinished basement, but what's in there is the furnace, and it's installed on a pair of patio stones, or in common language, sidewalk blocks. So it's got about this much space off the ground, and I'll tell you, at the worst of it, I spent, there's a few times where it was in 5 minutes of getting above the second one, and where it would start damaging the furnace. So I dealt with the immediate situation, and then had a friend come to my home around 10 p.m. to help with where I was just struggling. And I got through it without the basement being damaged, but physically, it was going to be Monday or Tuesday before I recovered. The disappointing part, or the more challenging part, is I was sitting here in this spot. My computer's directly behind the camera, and I was playing a game of a racing car game before I went to bed. And I had my headsets on like this, and I heard this pop, and I didn't think too much of it. The fridge has been doing this since it was new. And I had contacted the manufacturer, and they had said it was normal if it didn't affect the cooling. The bottom line is I wanted to have a few grapes before I went to bed. I went to the refrigerator, and I have an actual thermometer in it, and it showed that the refrigerator was 51 degrees Fahrenheit. In reference, it should be in the high 30s. So food safe is sort of 34 Fahrenheit to 41. Once you get above 41 Fahrenheit, the growth of bacteria perpetuates exponentially, and it's not safe to have food in there at above that temperature for preserving and using it the next day, or having yogurt that doesn't spoil or milk that doesn't spoil. So that was the end of the refrigerator. So I spent an hour just checking. I adjusted the thermostat and it didn't change. So we're getting into now 1:30 and 2 a.m. and I messaged one of my friends that's a licensed electrician in Western Canada. So at this point it's 11 p.m. out west and it was 2 a.m. here. The upshot is that the refrigerator's worn out. The way that it's designed isn't serviceable. You'd have to literally rip it all apart, and then even the action of ripping it apart is likely to cause more damage to the coil. That's where the cool air and the fan blows over to get the cool air for your food. It's a contained coil. It's a disposable refrigerator, unfortunately. So I didn't get to bed until it was about 5 a.m. when I finally went to bed that night. And I do keep apples and carrots in the fridge, but essentially everything in the fridge was wrecked. So it took 2 days, but I contacted a program that supplements the disability benefits I receive, and they're willing to replace the refrigerator for me. And then the COVID factor came into play, where they're just not readily available right now. So I've ordered one. It's going to hopefully be a month, but it could be up to 4 for it to arrive. One of my buddies loaned me a really small 2 cubic foot mini refrigerator to at least get me started. And I'm going to get a second mini fridge to keep me going in the interim. I've talked about in other videos using the shed as a home office. So I don't think it's wasted money buying a mini refrigerator. And more practically speaking, I cook my meals, 3-4 months in advance. I can't do that right now. The issue is storing the meat and vegetables and eggs and things like that in the refrigerator while I'm working through cooking. Because otherwise, what happens with my legs is I'm just keeping myself alive and never actually able to do anything productive. So by cooking ahead then freezing, I'm good. So the program's been very gracious. It's got a fridge that I can actually use. The ones that have the freezer at the top don't work for me because of being tall and how I reach and bend. It causes enormous amount of pain in my legs. So it's in progress. A byproduct of this is that I haven't yet finished making the green screen. It wasn't a big deal making a green screen, but the basement flooding is urgent. The refrigerator, not keeping food cold, that's it's beyond urgent. So kind of life got stuck on hold for the past 2 weeks. And then I was to a specialist appointment on Thursday. So this is what a university anatomy class would use for a knee joint. So I'm just going to keep this really simple. There's a blue cartilage here. It links onto this side piece You know, when you're walking, your knee's going like this motion, a hinge motion. There's a tear right in this corner here. It's a really odd place to have a tear. The doctor hadn't seen it before. And he's in his 50s. He's well skilled to handle me, but it's just not common. The other thing that an MRI showed was back here. This is your kneecap. You can sort of see the colored area here and the white. That it's all frayed in behind here. So there's probably some bone that's being rubbed on that's not smooth, and it's not like a well lubricated joint. So I was through a regenerative medicine process in the middle of November, and my knee buckled. So what I mean by that is I was taking a step and the knee literally went like this. I would have fell, but the quad muscles, which are up here, and the calf muscles, which would be right here, I contracted them, which locked my leg in place. The downfall is that just the blunt impact, it stopped the regenerative medicine from working, just dead in its tracks, and I lost the gains. So I had a 40-minute appointment about all this, and in fact, if you want to know, I had sent a 3-page summary of point form of what I was feeling and what happened, sort of sequence of events, and sort of how it's impacting me, just to provide sort of full picture so the doctor could actually meaningfully help me. I sent this the day before, so when I came in the examination room, he was ready for me, and he was already past the point of answering or asking me questions, because I just explained everything in point form in a natural progressing sequence, and then asked me if I'd be willing to redo the regenerative medicine treatment. Now, what he wants to do differently this time, it's kind of interesting, is, so this is the part where it's torn. So there's a type of called an unloader brace, and what it does is makes this kind of shape of pie between the pencil and that blue cartilage there. So what it's going to do is stop the friction from happening right here, with the hypothesis that I'm just re-injuring it with virtually every step that I take. And by wearing a brace for 6 weeks, it'll help this area to heal right in here. And then, remember I said about my knee buckling? When it happened, my kneecap was actually over here. It was dislocated. So there'll be some metal bars on the sides here and here, and that will provide the support to prevent my knee from buckling in the hopes of breaking the cycle. What ultimately happens with all this is a report that will go back to an orthopedic surgeon, said, Ron, tried this was the result. And the doctor does want to help me, and he's a good listener. I really don't have anything bad to say about him. I have been through a lot because of my hips, and it's not my first rodeo, and I have some concerns, if I put it mildly and gently. But the pros outweigh the cons. A lot of these decisions I'm making, and what I've talked about in previous videos, is you make a pro chart and a con chart, and you're trying to figure out which weighs out the others. It makes the most sense to try and then see what happens, and kind of go from there. And I do believe in the least damage to the most damage. So the regenerative medicine treatment I had went into the void of the knee. Okay, so the fluid kind of went in where my pinky finger is. Okay, this time the needle's going to go directly into the blue. And what it will do is hopefully fill that void in. And in theory, it would make me more functional in day-to-day life. That's the goal. So the next few weeks, I've got a bunch to do because I haven't done any work on my goals during the past few weeks. So I'm going to be finishing off the green screen. And then what I'm wanting to do for the cleaning that I was hoping to accomplish was do 10 minutes 3 times a day in the hopes of not overwhelming my knees or my hips. And I know 30 minutes a day isn't a heck of a lot, but on the other hand, over the span of a few weeks, it should make sense. And then after that, what remains is taking care of Rocky's cage. And I've got a cage purchased. It needs a second set of bars added to it. So the gap is too wide for Rocky. He'll escape on me. It's a lovely cage. He'll have lots of space, and there'll be room for the activities that some of you have sent for Rocky to use and to play with. But unfortunately, just with how life has gone, I'm now thinking it's going to be the end of March or even the first or second week of April before it can get my attention. I kind of have to... I try to work on a one-in, one-out scenario where I don't take on another project before finishing one off and kind of have about 3 on the go at any one time so I don't get bored. The refrigerator's a crisis and it just needed attention. Same with the basement flooding. So I'm hoping my life will restabilize this week and nothing else goes on. That's an absolute crisis. I would like to get out and film a video of just driving around with my wheelchair and enjoying the waterfront. I haven't been able to do this, and the roads were clear 4 days ago, but we've had new snow since then. And I just haven't been able to get out because the wheelchair will get stuck. But as soon as I can and the streets are back bare again, it is something I want to do. And we are getting to where the weather's warming up. And then this summer I should be able to spend time working towards the shed to office renovation. What I'm initially going to do is get it insulated and then go from there. So I kind of have a plan. And we'll see how things go. I mean, at least in my thinking, it's better to have something to aim for than just to waste your life, because time is a funny way of passing. Okay, that's the upshot of what's been happening in my life. If you've made it this far, I do appreciate you listening to me, and I do enjoy the YouTube channel. I wish I'd had more time to post the past 2 weeks, but I've just been maxed out on what I can accomplish. I hope you're doing well. Bye for now.